kidding. The the pizza's not bad. All right, are you able to see my screen? The one
Yes.
that's still on the program? Okay. All right. Well, so this was put together with the help of Dr. Khanna and Dr. Lescoat. And it's not advancing, is it? Oh, there we are. All right. So this is a picture of me. I was anticipating maybe you people would not have seen me before, but now that you know what I look like, this is what I look like. The joke I like to make here is this is what I look like with facial hair. And now that I'm married and my wife has made it very clear that facial hair will have no part in our relationship, I now don't have facial hair. I am the newest member to the Scleroderma team here at the University of Michigan, and it really is an honor. The preface, without getting choked up here, is it is an honor to work with patients who have this disease, because these people have been through about as much as anybody is able to go through. And without, preaching to the choir or pandering, anybody who can survive with Raynaud's in Michigan is a pretty tough cookie. So everybody who I'm talking to, this is a highlight for you. You guys live this stuff. If you choose, this can be interactive. So if you have the opportunity to go onto this website, there'll be a handful of questions that'll just give me sort of an idea of where we are. So it's pollev.com/my name and then 393. And Dr. Lescoat can join as well if you'd like. I'll keep it here for a couple more seconds. And if most people have already got to the website, if you could just give me a thumbs up. Oh, I see Nadia Van was pretty slick with the emoji thumbs up. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. So you should be able to vote on that website. So what best describes you? I'm a person with scleroderma, or I'm a friend, family member, or loved one of a person who has scleroderma. Okay, we'll give it a couple seconds. One of my favorite things is you go to these...
I'm a person with scleroderma.
Say it again.
I'm a person with scleroderma.
You are? So you would vote A.
Oh, so do you push it where are we doing this now?
Oh, sorry. Did you go to the website?
Okay, here I go. All right.
Can you go to the website when the share screen is up? Because I don't see that option.
Yeah,
So
I'm
if you look
too.
If you go in the chat where you put the numbers for your guess of beads, there's a link and you can click on that and it'll pull it up.
Oh, okay.
Then you can have both.
Okay. Thank
you.
Okay.
So you go to these national conferences and they'll ask a question to, I don't know, 1,000 people, and you can see how it changes in real time. So they'll ask somebody, what's the next best step in management? Somebody will say A, and then everybody else will say B. And then people who are voting B realizes that A is probably smarter than B. And then you see these numbers change dramatically in front of your eyes. Okay, so it looks like this is a pretty good split. So 2/3 of the people here have the disease, and then about 1/3 of the people are in close relationships with somebody who does have the disease. Okay. And then let's lock it and show the response. Okay, great. It doesn't tell me how many people. It says, oh no, total of 13. Okay, great. So let's talk about vaccines. And this is another poll response. You should be able to go on the site and type in the word that you think about when you think about vaccines. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this. You can type in the word. If people have the same word, then it will tally it and represent it as a larger word. So this is good. All the words are the same size, meaning everybody is having an individual feeling about this. So I'm seeing words like important, protective, hopeful. I'm also seeing skeptical. I see what is probably 2 words. I see side and then I see effects. I'm going to put those together and assume it is side effects. I see important, or maybe important side effects. I see preventative. So the general sense I'm getting here is people are seeing a positive in this, but there are some concerns, and that is correct. I think if we're taking the temperature of the room, this is where we need to be. And the word that jumps out now is protective, and that leads me to the very next slide. This is the director of the Clinical Research Unit for Lupus at the NIH. And in his most recent paper, wrote, "Vaccines are the most important contribution in the history of medicine for public health." And I 100% agree with him. And this is somebody who researches lupus for a living. And so in this particular paper that I'm citing, he has surveyed with his team all the benefits versus all the risks of people with lupus receiving vaccinations. At the bottom line, the benefits outweigh the risks. That's going to be the theme of what I'm talking about this evening. We can never know all the risks. And the reason that that's impossible is because everybody's immune system is going to be a little bit different. But that does not mean that we have to be scared out of a benefit. And we'll talk about it. But the general idea here is, even in people where the prevailing thought for some time was, don't give them vaccines, you could trigger the immune system that will lead to a flare and the patients will suffer. That has not been borne out in the research. And while I don't have that kind of data for scleroderma patients, I believe the same to be true. I'm always impressed with the amount of knowledge that the patient who is sitting across from me has. I think medicine is just different than it was 50 years ago. The access to information, democratizing that information, has really made a difference in being an informed consumer. And when we talk about vaccines, you know, I was trained as both a pediatrician and as an adult doctor. And when I chose rheumatology, I just chose to be an adult doctor because it is difficult to do both well, be a pediatrician and adult doctor, be a rheumatologist. So focusing on this one area, I have a very soft side for vaccines. For 4 years, I'd been advocating for patients who really needed vaccines to stay safe. But when I sit across the table from somebody with scleroderma, they tend to know just about everything they need to know. And really, I'm just filling in the details. I'm sure most of you have a background in understanding what a vaccine is, but I'm just going to assume next to nothing. The simplest organisms that exist on this earth can tell friend from foe. An amoeba can do this, but what keeps us alive is an automatic unconscious process of immunity. That means everything that is trying to kill you, you can nab it before it can get there. That's what the immune system does. The way that it's able to nab it is by using this antigen recognition system. Every microbe has some pattern recognition item on its surface that we can use once it enters our body to say, hold it, Buster, you're not going any further than this. We create an antibody. So when we see it, we can nab it. And the name of the game is to be prepared for next time. So you see the measles virus here. There's an antigen. Our body has recognized it. We create an existing antibody. We do the same thing for the flu. First year of medical school, I'm scratching my head saying, if we already know what the antigen is, why are we getting a flu shot every year, but we don't get the measles shot every year? And the idea is that there are so many different strains of the flu that antigen changes just a little bit. And it means that our antibodies are not up to date, and we need to get another shot every year because the strain will change every year. We get into a heap of trouble when we have a new pathogen and we don't have that antibody. We're not prepared. And there really is no substitute until we get infected or we get a vaccine. And between those two, I'll take the vaccine. where we stand with this, the reason people get into so much trouble is we were not prepared for this, in quotes. People knew that there was a possibility, but our bodies were not prepared. So in the left half of this picture, what you can't see is that there is no microbe. All we have attached to what we're now developing a new antibody is just a piece of the antigen. It is impossible to get sick from a piece of antigen, but you can have an immune response to it. And so the most common thing I hear is you better block off a day or two after you get your vaccine because do we have any children in the audience?
No.
Are we okay with blue words
Mhm.
here and there? You're going to feel like shit. You're going to have a 1 or 2 day course where you're going to ask your significant other, the chicken soup, please, thanks. And that is your immune response producing what you need to be prepared, but it is not the same thing as the illness itself. So let's talk about what this actually is. This is an mRNA vaccine. So I was going to put up a question here. Are you guys familiar with the idea of an mRNA vaccine? But if, we'll just do it faster. Show of hands. How many people have heard that this is an mRNA vaccine? I see Dr. Murphy raising her hand. But yeah, so I had never heard of this. So I would say if you asked me a year ago, what's this update on mRNA vaccines, I'd be saying, come again now? Medical school, they didn't teach me about this. It has been in development, but it is relatively new and has not been produced on this type of scale. So let's just walk through it. So we have 2 available vaccines. They're both mRNA vaccines. If you're going to receive one, it's probably going to be one or another of these. I'm going to spend a moment going through what a conventional vaccine looks like, and then I'm going to talk about what an mRNA vaccine is, and I'm going to compare it on 4 separate dimensions. First dimension, production time. A conventional vaccine has to be grown, and it's grown from the virus. The concept I want you to have in your mind: the virus can't exist without a host. You need to provide a host. You need to isolate the virus. You need to replicate that virus. Doing all this will take some time. So by the time you have enough virus and you have enough of a clear understanding of what the antigen is on that shell of the virus, you then have to harvest this and make it useful to become a vaccine. So in these pictures on the bottom, you have a chicken egg, you've identified this virus, you put it in, you have to replicate this thing. And once you've replicated it, what it means to have a vaccine ready is that you've isolated the antigen, you've made it safe for people so that it can go into their arm, you've added an adjuvant, which is a fancy term for saying you've made it so that the body will react to it, so that it will make antibodies in large amounts. Then you have to mass produce this. And the thing that takes so long, one, on the front end, is isolating the virus and doing all this work. But second, you have to prove that the body will produce an immune response. That's the term that we use called immunogenicity. Not only does it have to be immunogenic, meaning that you give somebody the vaccine in a clinical trial, you have to draw their blood, you have to check to see that they've made the antibodies. You then have to prove that it's effective. So it's not enough just to know that they made antibodies. You need to demonstrate that they've been exposed to the virus and nothing happened to them. Whereas in the other arm, when you receive a placebo, those people were exposed and they got sick. You have to prove that it works. This can take a long, long time. And the hard part, after you've done all that and you've checked safety and you've made sure that it's efficacious, you then have to produce this thing on a mass scale and you have to get it out so you can put shots in arms. This takes a long time. There were no corners cut in making the mRNA vaccine. This was a technology that we have recently developed, have been working on, but didn't have a need on this scale. The most common question I heard in the initial stages here is, we skipped a phase 3, like we jumped from phase 1 to phase 3. The idea here is that when you have different phases of clinical trials, you have to have money so that you can do the trial properly, so you can actually execute everything you need to do to make sure it's clinically efficacious and safe. When you have financial backing on the order of the world, you can not cut corners, but you don't have to have a proof of concept in order to generate the funds that come in to make it happen. So when I hear corners were cut, it's not that corners were cut. It was that financially the burden was offloaded. In the process of making this mRNA vaccine, the concept I want you to have in your mind, the antigen is the key. That's the thing that is going to allow your body to do what you need to do. But you don't have to give everybody the antigen. You just have to give them the instructions so that they can make the antigen. The concept here, it's the difference between giving somebody a fish and teaching somebody how to fish. So for mRNA vaccines, you isolate the virus, you identify the RNA. RNA is a fancy term for saying instructions that allow you to produce a protein in a production chain. You share that RNA code with the rest of the world. So I don't know who figured this one out, but somebody's getting a Christmas card, because this really has revolutionized how we do this. The hard part for this, for an mRNA vaccine, again, not an antigen. This is not a protein that your body will use to make the response. This is the most delicate item we can even think of. This is mRNA. This is, these are sheets. These are not books. And, you know, they disintegrate. You put it into the body will just tear it up. So you have to create a vessel that allows that mRNA to sit inside of a vessel to get to where it has to go so your body can produce rather than eat it up. But they figured this out within a year. When you have the mRNA and you're ready to produce it, it really isn't that hard to produce this. You have machinery that will do this, but the most important machinery is the one that exists inside your body. So you inject this into the body, your body doesn't recognize it. What it does is take that vessel containing mRNA that goes into the machinery of your cells. Your cells then use the information to start making the protein. It produces the antigen. And that's when you start feeling like shit because your body is producing the thing that it should not want in itself, but it's exactly what you need to be prepared in case you get the real thing. Anyway, wrapping this up, the hard part of this, there's a lot of front load. You have to be smart. You have to make sure you get these codes right and you're transferring good information. You get it into the body. It's candy coated exactly as you need it, but you have to be able to get it into arms safely. And this thin sheet of paper will disintegrate. That's why at least I think 2 of these vaccines have to be kept at record low temperatures so that it doesn't melt and destroy itself. So let me pause there. Any questions about the mRNA vaccine? If not, I'll just go into frequently asked questions. First question is, where are we with vaccines? I'm not sure if you guys have been to this website. This is constantly updated. So this is Bloomberg.com. The shades of green that you see here are telling you per 100 people, how many people have been vaccinated. The range is 14, and the upper limit here, it continues to change because we want that number to go higher and higher. The highest one that we're gonna talk about is in Alaska. I've never been to Alaska. There aren't many people there, but it isn't that bad in terms of distributing a vaccine per capita. So per 100 people, they have the highest at 25 per 100. So 1 out of 4 people are already vaccinated. That's amazing. But you know, in a place like Michigan, that's not realistic. So our number here is 16 per 100 people. 11% have at least 1 shot. 5% are fully vaccinated. And you can just see the distribution here. I mean, Michigan is not doing a bad job. On the left-hand side here, the question that really comes to mind is, Dave, this is great information, fine, but what does it mean about returning back to a normal life? At the rate that we're going right now, it would take about 9 months where we would achieve 75% of the people in the state to have reached 2 vaccines, and assuming that there's nothing catastrophic, you know, I'm not Nostradamus, there's no way for us to know if it's possible to get infected with a different strain. But once you have 75% of the people vaccinated with 2 doses, if we're talking about 95% efficacy, we're talking about returning back to life that is near normal. That's in 9 months. If you compare this with New York, the vaccination rate is twice as high, but the estimated time to get back to normal life is 8 months. And so really the things that factor into what brings us back to normal, how many people are getting the shot, and how many people actually exist in the state where you could communicate the disease to one another. So again, we're not doing that bad. And to show you the scope of this, over time, so this is about a little bit less than 2 months, everybody is increasing their dose per state. The lower end is Alabama, the upper end is Alaska, and we're kind of right in the middle. This will get better. We're figuring out how to do this better and better every day, but we're not doing so bad. The data that I have here may be 2 or 3 weeks old, but the information I have is over the course of 70,000 people who have been in the Pfizer and Mrna vaccine trials. That's the information we're taking to determine, is this safe? The big question on everybody's mind isn't, is this an effective drug? I think most people would agree that, you're getting a vaccine and they're reporting consistently upwards of 90% of people will be safe from this vaccine. The question is there going to be a risk to me? And so the data I have is over 70,000 people. It may be that there are more people and I just didn't have that information. But so far, what we're talking about are minor side effects, muscle aches, fever, just sore shoulder. I always wanted to be a kickboxer, but I realized I can't take pain too good. So when I got that shot, I was down for a day. But it really is not that bad. Serious side effects are very rare. This is information from the CDC website. There's no way you can possibly read something this small on your screen, but the takeaway here is we don't have the data. So when I'm sitting across the room from somebody and they have a disease as serious as scleroderma, you probably have heard me say this to you if I've sat across from you. I will never lie to you. When I tell you something, it is to the best of my knowledge. If I don't know something, I'm going to look it up, which usually means I have to go to Dr. Khanna and say, I don't know something again, or search the information web that we have for good clinical data. But the truth is, I don't know. So when I say that this is safe, what I'm telling you is the history of vaccines are safe. What we know about mRNA vaccines are safe. The data that I have from 70,000 people is safe, but there's no guarantee. I cannot provide that to you. But given what we know, people with autoimmune conditions have been part of the 70,000, and there's no disproportionate number of people with autoimmune diseases presenting with worsening autoimmune disease. And in that way, the net benefit is going to be on the side of getting the vaccine. There's some data to show that people who have been infected with HIV, a disease that can cause an immune deficiency, those people, even though they're immune compromised, they have not produced bad outcomes. So this is a living document. At some point, I will have information to provide to you, but I don't have it at this time. There are a handful of people, we're not talking common, we're talking extraordinarily rare, who will have a serious allergic reaction, like an anaphylactic reaction to the vaccine. And there's no way for us to know that, with the exception, I have received a vaccine in the past, I have developed an anaphylactic reaction. You fall into the very few decimal percentage points where you should not receive this vaccine. It is possible that people who are immune suppressed will not develop the same robust response that everybody else will, and that efficacy number will drop. So if we're talking 95% in people who have a quote unquote normal immune system, the people who are immune suppressed, that number could be lower, but I do not have that data yet. We talked about severe anaphylaxis. So if you have any concern that that might be the case for you, talk to your doctor before getting the vaccine. On the whole, there will be a net benefit for getting the vaccine versus not. And I'm going to jump to the slides that tell us what to do with medications if you're on this. This just came out. And when I say just, I'm putting just in all caps. What this represents is information from the American College of Rheumatology in the United States. There are equivalent bodies in Canada, in Europe, and they're not all saying the same thing right now. But I can tell you from the American College of Rheumatology, these are the recommendations on what to do from medications. Just to give you the 2-second story on this, this is not levels of evidence. This is consensus. And what consensus means, I often tell patients, there is no one right answer because we're still learning about the majority of all the autoimmune diseases out there. But consensus is the world's smartest people sitting down around coffee and saying, what do you think about this? And in a what they call a modified Delphi exercise, which is to say they put information in front of the experts. They want them to know everything that's on those sheets of paper. And then they ask them particular questions. Do you agree with this or do you disagree with this? And in a several round robin series, the experts will either agree or disagree and eventually come to statements that they would agree with. So a panel of 9 rheumatologists, 2 infectious disease doctors, and a handful of other experts on vaccines sat down and said, these are our consensus. If you're on hydroxychloroquine, if you're getting IVIG, if you're getting prednisone less than 20 milligrams a day, there's nothing that you need to do as you're approaching your vaccination date. And they can use a level of confidence here, strong to moderate. And then what you're going to see for the rest of the items on this table, it's all going to be no modifications, just with moderate levels of consensus. If you're on sulfasalazine, leflunomide, if you're on Cellcept, if you're on azathioprine, there's nothing you need to do in anticipation for your vaccine. Same thing if you're on oral cyclophosphamide. Same thing if you're on a TNF-alpha inhibitor. So if any patients are taking Humira for a reason or another, if anybody's receiving anakinra, somebody's receiving Actemra, if somebody's receiving a handful of these other biologic medications, there's nothing you need to do. There's no suggestion from these experts that it would impair your body's ability to make a response to the vaccine. If you're on prednisone greater than 20 milligrams a day, there's a moderate level of consensus that you don't need to do anything different. All of these will have something that we need to pay attention to. If you're on methotrexate, there is enough data on methotrexate to suggest that in the past, when you look at other conventional vaccinations, getting your vaccine and then holding the methotrexate the week after will allow your body to make a better response. The little asterisk I put here at the end of that sentence is to assume this is somebody who is in stable disease control. This is somebody who is essentially in remission. Holding their medication, methotrexate, will not cause them to get worse. So you can hold it 1 week after your vaccination, your response will be better. If you're on a JAK inhibitor, so people recognize this. I tell people I should have been on some committee for marketing. This is the Unjection or Xeljanz tofacitinib. I'm sure everybody saw this, Super Bowl time. They run ads like this. If you're taking Xeljanz or tofacitinib, you want to take your vaccine and hold the medication for a week after the vaccine. If you are on abatacept, other name is Orencia, and the particular form that you're getting is subcutaneous, and you're getting this weekly, you're going to hold 1 week prior to your vaccination, and you're going to hold 1 week after your first dose. You're then going to restart your medication. You don't have to do the same thing for your second vaccination. If you're getting abatacept and it's in the IV formulation, which is every 4 weeks, you're going to get your medication, you're going to wait 4 weeks, and then you're going to get your first dose. You're then going to wait another week, and then you're going to get your infusion again. The idea is you want to space out as much time as you can for this particular medication, for the infusion form. Its job is to impair your body's ability to use T cells and B cells interacting with one another, causing inflammation. And this is exactly the kind of thing that would help make a vaccine work. So if you're taking this particular IV form of the medication, I want you to talk to your doctor and you would space out your dosing. If you're getting IV cyclophosphamide, you would infuse, then you'd wait a week and you'd get the vaccine. And again, this is in somebody who has stable enough disease where you can hold the IV cyclophosphamide. The medication that we spend the most amount of time talking about is Rituximab. Most of you have probably heard of something like Rituximab. It's a medication that you get every 6 months, and its job is to impair your body's ability to use B cells. Those are the cells that make antibodies. And if you impair the body's ability to make antibodies, you're essentially cutting off your body's ability to use an immune defense with antibodies. If you were on Rituximab and you were very sick, this is going to be an important discussion with your doctor. But ideally, we can give the vaccine 4 to 5 weeks before your Rituximab. That would give enough time for your body to make an immune response and have it produce. You then take the Rituximab, and over the course of weeks, your body will shut down the B cell lineage. It won't get rid of the cells that have already processed the antigen. You will still have immunity, you'll just have less. After vaccination, we recommend that you delay Rituximab by 2 to 4 weeks after the second dose. And again, it's assuming that your disease activity would allow that. I think everybody knows this. Even if you are vaccinated, we recommend that you still observe the same precautions, still have to wear a mask, still have to distance. But let me pause here. These are a lot of questions. These are a lot of questions I thought people would ask. Did I get that right? Are there questions that you would have asked that I did not pose here?
Yes, those are some of my concerns you addressed.
My wife usually tells me to stop talking, so nobody said anything yet.
I just have one question. It's Roz. I don't know if you can see me over here or not. I've been on a research medication for the last 1.5 years, and the study was stopped this week. It was decided that the study would stop. Since the medication is not a known factor that I was on, what should I look out for, or would I contact the rheumatology group if I have some kind of side effects after I get my vaccine?
So good question. I think there are 2 parts to the answer. One, if you've stopped the medication, but you have not yet received your vaccination, the idea would be the medication will wash out of your system.
Okay.
And you would just proceed with vaccination as you would otherwise.
Okay.
The second is we're less concerned that there would be a side effect or an interaction of a medication with the vaccine. The primary concern is, will the immune suppression or the immune modulation make it harder for you to have a good response to the vaccine? So nothing bad would happen. It would just impair your body's ability to use the vaccine.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
Got a question.
Sure.
Does it matter if you have more than one autoimmune disease? Does that make a difference? For instance, I have scleroderma and ulcerative colitis, and who knows what else. Does that have an impact, do you think?
So that is a difficult question for me to answer with certainty. I would say that I do not know. I would assume that it would not. But it would be wrong of me to tell you I do know.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, is it worth getting antibody titers to determine whether or not you've had an adequate response in immunosuppressed patients?
So I had to look this question up. As of now, my understanding is that the CDC is not recommending it. So I'm not sure if you guys know who Dr. McCune is. Dr. McCune is, he's the head of the lupus program here. And he's just about the smartest guy I've ever met in my life. And I was a first-year trainee working with him, and I told him, patients fully vaccinated were fine. And he looked at me and goes, "How do you know the person made a normal response to the vaccine?" And you have to understand, I'm a grown man. I'm not scared. I'm from New York. But in that moment, I was terrified of Dr. McCune. I didn't know what to say, and I didn't have an answer. And he did have an answer, and the answer was, you need to assess the person's response in terms of quantity and quality of their vaccination response. You can't assume. To my knowledge, at this moment, the CDC is saying, do not do that. That may be different if we get more information.
Can I suggest something, Dave?
Sure.
Yeah, the other aspect about the vaccine, it's not all about antibodies actually, because some cells we have in our body can also attack the virus without the antibodies. So antibodies is just a marker, but this is not the only effect of the vaccine. And so so this is an important aspect, just not to believe that the vaccine is all about antibodies. Antibodies is one of the weapons we have, but we have other immune weapons in our immune system that are also activated by the vaccine. And I think this is an important aspect also, not to be too focused on the antibodies aspect here.
Thank you.
100%. I'm going to hit the pause button here. Dr. Lescoat, so Dr. Lescoat is an MD PhD, not to, overhype somebody, but he's got a wealth of knowledge and understanding of immunology. Before I go on to the next section, do you have things that I did not address or things that you wanted to add that might be helpful?
I know that was a great talk. Well done, really. No, great. The only aspect was that this is not all about antibodies. So, and maybe just the other, but this is more a question in the situation when you cannot delay the injection of Rituximab or other treatment we have mentioned. That does not mean, for what I understand, that you don't have the right to have the vaccine. This is not what we have, what we meant. We meant that maybe the vaccine will be less efficient if you keep your medication as it is, because you cannot change it because the disease is not well controlled enough. But that doesn't mean that you don't have the right to have the vaccine. So I just tell me if I'm wrong, David. But
no. Well, so I've known him for about 2 months or so. He hasn't been wrong yet. I've been looking for it. It doesn't exist. Okay, other questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to get to the biggest question. The question, when will I get the vaccine? You don't have to share, but if somebody does want to share, if you've had the vaccine.
I've had it, both doses.
How did it go?
What's that?
How did it go for you?
Fine. I just had my second dose last Thursday and I was fine. Didn't bother me at all.
And so you weren't like, say, weeping to your wife saying,
No. No. And the old man did fine too, thank God. So
because it's okay. If you cry, it's okay,
No, because I don't have time to cry. I'm a mom. Don't even go there. I'm a wife and a mom. So we don't have time to be in pain or at least no one cares when we're sick. What would you say if your wife told you to get to her some chicken noodle soup?
Say it again.
I said, what would you say if your wife told you to get her some chicken noodle soup?
I was prepared. She got her vaccine and then she went to work.
Right.
And I was waiting for the, you don't know what kind of day I've had. And that didn't happen.
That's because women are way stronger.
I've heard this.
We're tough. We can handle anything.
Are we okay for tangents? Mary's running. We're okay for the 2-second tangent.
Absolutely, please, yes.
So I love these. So there are these anecdotes that I come across, and just as a piece of history, I was a philosophy guy, so I never thought I'd be going into medicine. That just didn't cross my mind. And every so often I'll get something, and it's just a piece of humanity or it's a piece of history that fits into my understanding of autoimmune disease. There's a book that just came out, and the name of the book is called An Elegant Defense. And if you haven't heard of this, it is a wonderful anthology history of the immune system. And it chronicles, it's a New York Times writer, what the immune system does for several different people. And so there's a patient who has lupus, there's a patient who has rheumatoid arthritis, there's a patient who has lymphoma and is dying of lymphoma. And all of these people are essentially holding hands in the dark, and what connects them all is the immune system. And he interviews all the key players, and one of them is Dr. Khanna's mentor from back at UCLA, and her name is Bev Rahan. And anybody who's walked into rheumatology, at least in you interview for fellowship for rheumatology in the United States, you will have heard of Bev Rahan. And she has a theory. The theory is that women tend to have more autoimmune disease than men, and the question is why? And the answer is staring us in the face. It is pregnancy. Women need to be able to hold two separate humans and recognize that one is not the same as the other, and not to attack the other. And sometimes those wires get crossed. And so we don't know why autoimmunity happens, but this is sort of oh my God, I didn't realize the answer could be that easy sitting in front of me. I can't use this information in any useful way, but it really gives us a better idea. When we talk about the nuances of all these diseases, sometimes don't get caught in the details. Think of the obvious. And it's an interesting theory. So anyway, so next time you see Dr. Khanna, tell him that Bev Rahan has a great idea about why autoimmunity happens. Dr. Lesko, did you have something to add?
I just wanted to highlight that men can have scleroderma and they don't have pregnancy.
Yes. Well, that we know of. That we know of. That could happen.
Can't handle it.
But yes, there's definitely something wrong with the immune system. But the question is, why does it happen in women more? We don't know that answer. But okay.
Dr. Roofeh, this is Beverly, and you asked if we had the vaccine. I have had my first dose, and I get my second one tomorrow. After my first dose, I had absolutely no side effects. I have had flu shots that were more uncomfortable than this, but I had a mammogram a week later, and I was warned that I could be called back for a more detailed mammogram because they were seeing that swollen lymph nodes were showing up on mammograms. And sure enough, I had to go back for a second mammogram because the vaccine caused my lymph nodes to swell, even though I wasn't aware of swelling under my armpit or wherever they would have been, but it showed up on the mammogram. So this is just a warning to all of you women or men, if you get a mammogram, that this could happen.
Thank you. Thank you. This is a helpful piece of information.
And this is because precisely the lymph nodes are the place in the body when the immune reaction happens. So that's logical. I don't say that this is the reason, but this is not a surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to step forward with answering the question, when are we going to get this? There are a lot of words and a lot of colors here. I'm just going to go step by step here. What this is the rollout plan. And what you have along the x-axis going horizontally is time, and what you have on the y-axis, these are the different categories of demographics, and determining by demographic, when will this be rolled out? People who are prioritized first, those who are healthcare workers, people who are long-term care residents, and their staff. In this phase 1B, we're talking about people who are 75 and older that are not yet, we're not in phase 1A, and then a handful of other demographics: frontline, state, federal responders, school and children care staff, correctional facilities, and other essential frontline workers. To my knowledge, there have been some modifications to this. I don't know how it plays out in Michigan. So what I'm reporting here is coming from the website itself. Where we stand is here. We're talking about those who are 65 to 74 and older in 1C, but it's 16 to 64 for people who are less than age 65 who have pre-existing conditions. These are the, this is the cohort where we're really focused on our patients who have autoimmune disease. And what you can see here, the estimated rollout is somewhere maybe May. And to my knowledge, I do not have a deviation from this plan. Perhaps somebody in the audience knows better than I do.
I know my husband, who's 72, got his second vaccine on Saturday. So he's in the 65 to 74-year-old category, but I have not been put on the invitation as yet.
Got it. And the hope is that we have the communication infrastructure set up so when this is ready to roll out, Michigan Medicine can target our patient population and tell you when and where to be to get the vaccine. But as it stands right now, the phases of the vaccination rollout are determined by the Michigan Department of Health, and Michigan Medicine enacts what they set forth. So the most common question I get is, you know, Dr. Dave, you're a great guy. Could you just tell me when it is I'm getting this vaccine? And the answer is, I'm waiting to hear. Like I had mentioned, as of the 14th, when I made these slides, I did not have a different date for rollout. I'm going to go through a handful of resources here. These are things that I think may be helpful for us. First, I'm not pushing any product. I have no, unfortunately, no financial gain here. I wish I did, but this is one website. Meyer does have vaccines, and if you go to their website and you register, you may be notified before I'm notified that there's a vaccine that is available for you. Has anybody registered? You don't have to share if you don't want, but has anybody registered for a website like this?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yep.
This is Nancy. I registered with Macomb County.
Mm-hmm.
Today they do their thing on Tuesdays, and I was pushing redial on the phone for about 45 minutes.
Oh.
And I get my vaccine, and my boyfriend gets his vaccine on Monday. But then I'm 71, so and he's 73, so that's how come we could get in early. But he registered with the VA, and he registered with Meyer and has heard nothing back. He had an appointment with the VA for April. So after he gets his first shot, he's going to cancel that.
Got it.
I went on the Macomb County website on Tuesday to register. I also had the phone dialing Macomb County. They open at 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday, and at 8:30 in the morning, I pushed the button for the site and I dialed the phone number, and at 8:31, I got a message that no more appointments were available.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't get through till about 9:15 this morning.
Well, you were waiting in line, Nancy.
Oh, I know. They told me when I got the recording, it said you're 99 in the queue.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations.
I got a letter from Beaumont on January 8th just saying I'm eligible. And That's it. And I've looked every day because they send a follow-up email, but I've never gotten it. And I have registered at Meyer, the Oakland County Health Department, and a bunch of places, but.
Yeah, Bill tried, Bill's doctors through Beaumont, and he couldn't get, he registered like you did, and he got nothing back.
And also today they said they ran out for the second vaccine. So some people who got the first might not get the second on time, which is kind of scary. So I'd rather wait until they're loaded and ready to go. You know, I don't know what the ramifications of not getting your second one on time are, but that just makes me a little nervous.
Dr. Fauci said today they would prefer that everybody get the second dose when they should, but up to 6 weeks is comparable to getting it on time. So
I think I see Anita's hand raised.
Yes, do you anticipate changes in the supply chain so that we actually get vaccines into the arms in a more organized fashion and a quicker fashion? I don't know how the production is, if we can increase production or not. Do you know?
I unfortunately do not know.
Have you heard anything about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that's supposed to be a 1 dose and done?
I do not think I know enough to even comment.
Okay.
I can tell you what I know about that one is what I've heard on NPR. So it would just be, it would be me trying to misremember what somebody said. It is interesting in medicine, just as a general blanket statement, the funnel of knowledge, when, as a friend described this to me in the first year of medical school, it's like trying to drink oatmeal from a fire hose. Sometimes it's just a bit much. And in the funnel of knowledge, especially as it's being produced on the order of days to weeks, it can miss the intended target. So I should know about that vaccine, but because I've been so focused on these two, I just don't know about it.
Okay.
Dr. Lesko, do you know anything about that one, Johnson & Johnson?
No, the same, nothing very official for the moment. We know this is not an mRNA vaccine, so that's not the same process. We know that it is more easy to conserve it because they don't need very low temperature because it's not mRNA, same idea. And somehow it is more like the previous vaccines we have used to know in the past. And indeed, there is only need for 1 dose, like the flu vaccine. That's what I know.
You know, I'm a PharmD, and the little I've read about the Johnson & Johnson, the efficacy is a little bit lower, but I don't know that you can compare the populations in the various studies. And it also doesn't have any efficacy, I don't think, against the South African variant. The British, it seems to have some. That's what I've read so far. And they are studying a second dose for the J&J vaccine. So that's all I know. Not much.
Considering the efficacy, I think one of the important aspects is to keep in mind that what we want is to avoid the severe case and the hospitalization, and not just the symptoms. Because if we avoid the hospitalization and the death and the severe cases, then that's fine. We don't want just a vaccine against a snore. We want a vaccine against a severe disease. And that's something that you will need to keep in mind when hearing the numbers about the efficacy.
And the J&J did have good numbers for that. So
think,
that was good. Yeah.
One other question. What about if you think you have had, or you have been confirmed to have had COVID prior, you know, like at the beginning of the year or whatever? Is the immune system better able to handle that if you're exposed again, or is the vaccine still recommended?
I do not know the answer with certainty. Dr. Lesko, do you know?
Well, the problem is I know the European recommendations. So in Europe, they are now recommending only 1 dose. That would be enough because your immune system already knows the virus, but you are, with the vaccine, probably promoting a more specific response that would be more efficient, and 1 dose would be enough. So, but this is Europe. I don't know what it's proposed in America, and I don't know what are the proof of these. Why do they think this is enough? What 1 injection is enough? So considering that we don't have firm answers for the moment, an evidence-based answer, I would recommend to be careful about what you will hear about that.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm clear, but
Other questions?
I may just add one point concerning the mRNA vaccine, because I think some people are afraid of the concept that this is mRNA, so this is different. This is not what we've known before as a vaccine. But what you have to keep in mind is that in many previous vaccine system, what was injected was either a virus, but a transformed virus, or a living virus, but that was bitten to be less powerful. And this time we don't even put a virus, but just a very small piece of the virus. So in a way there, we could understand that there's less reason of being afraid of just a small portion of the virus instead of another virus or a virus that has been bitten. So that would be the first aspect. And the other aspect, there is absolutely no proof so far that the mRNA vaccine could change your genome, because as we're talking about DNA, mRNA, people are wondering, but is the vaccine going to enter in my DNA and change my DNA? And there is absolutely no proofs for that. And theoretically, this is totally impossible. I say theoretically because there is no proof on the contrary, but mRNA is not supposed to go into your genome and to change it. So theoretically, this is totally impossible, and I don't think we should be afraid of that aspect of the mRNA vaccine. I don't know, Dave, if you can comment or if what I say is not clear, but
100% agree. All right, I'm going to move to this particular document. So I'll share the slides. Is it best if I send it to Maya, to Mary, or somebody else?
You can send them to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Maya. Yeah, Maya.
Okay, perfect. This particular website, www.rheumatology.org, this is going to be the American College of Rheumatology's recommendations that I'd shown before, what to do if you're on this particular immune suppressant. But this is a living document. So as things develop for us, as we have more time to look at the clinical trial data and understand what's happened and what's happening, these updates will come.
Oh, I see what it means.
You know, it's always important to, you know, in the Wizard of Oz, you have to look behind the curtain to understand who's behind the curtain. So not that I'm a grand figure, but there are people who are training me, and I have to give them the respect that they deserve. So these 2 gentlemen are the program director and the associate program director for the Scleroderma program. I'm sure you recognize these faces. There are questions I cannot answer. And when I don't know that, I go to I go to Dr. Lescote, and then I go to Dr. Khanna. If we don't have those answers, we will find them. And if they don't exist, our job is to look for them. And that's the reason I'm showing you the pictures of the people in the Scleroderma program. The broader picture here is this is a disease that we still don't understand. And to use the word unacceptable, you know, there is that just doesn't do enough. It is our mission to understand what is happening and how to transform what it means to have this disease for people who live with it. Anyway, this is what we do here. And I must be preaching to the choir because you guys elected to be here today as part of, you know, as being part of the program. But there are many things that we can provide. Our job is to build the foundation of evidence. So we have research that focuses on quality of life. We have research that focuses on outcome measures. We have clinical trials, interventional research. We have basic and translational research. All of this is to say that when we do this, we do it together. And peer mentorship is just a really important part of the advocacy for this disease. So thank you for being here. Sometimes we get the question, how do we get more people into the program? And this really is a referral process. So self-referral is not the preferred way to do this. Primary care physician, a specialist, writes the referral, comes to our team. We need to make sure that we have the proper information to sort of risk stratify the patient. And then there's a form for that person to fill out. So if you know somebody or you're talking to somebody and saying, I'm worried that you have this disease, you really need to see a sclerodermalogist, this would be the way to do it, is to have the primary care physician or to have a specialist make the referral. I think everybody probably is aware of this website, self-managed-scleroderma.com. Yeah. So, Maya is, you can't pay people enough to care. And Maya just seems to be one of those people who just cares. And that's what makes a difference here. So anyway, you guys are fully aware of the peer mentorship program. Otherwise you wouldn't be here today. For research, this would be the email to email. And then the last question here is, if there were more questions, if there were other things that we did not discuss, would a 1-hour Q&A session with other members from the Scleroderma team be helpful?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give it another minute or two.
The information is building so quickly. It's always good to get updates.
Agree. I think that's, for most of my training, what you had was that textbook, and then you'd creep on the internet looking for ways to understand the textbook. It's sort of flipped on its head now. I mean, textbooks really just don't exist. It's interwoven networks of information, people talking to one another, and things update quickly.
So if you still have the link up for the poll that Dr. Roofeh had given us before, you can vote. If you're still interested in a 1-hour Q&A, you can vote online if you have that link up from before. But I can tell you from the people that I've spoken to, they are really they would be very interested in the 1-hour Q&A session about this topic. Everybody asks me, do you know if there's going to be an update? Because I know Dr. Khanna did one last April, I think. I can't remember now. It's so long ago. But yes, people would be very interested in this.
Isn't it crazy? Last April? I mean,
it was April or May? I can't remember when it was.
It was like very beginning.
Yeah. I know.
This has been the longest month of my life. It lasted 13 months.
I know. I saw something that was like, how is March next month when that was last month?
Yeah. If we're okay with diversions here, I think everybody had the same reaction when for me, it was March 15th. I got the phone call from the service chief. You need to call your patients tomorrow and you need to talk to them. Do you absolutely need to come to the office, or can we do this by phone? Because this is serious and it's not going away. And my first thought was, holy shit, what's going to happen to our patients? And then once I talked to them and he said, okay, we have a plan. The second was, what am I going to watch on Netflix? And I realized what a dangerous question to ask, because I mean, what a rabbit hole I have found myself into. And does anybody have anything they want to confess?
Hey, doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down here, of course, for the 6 or 5-day treatment. So I got addicted to The Rain. I don't know if you've ever seen that series.
Sorry, the what?
It's called The Rain.
RAIN?
Mm-hmm.
How could I have not heard of this?
I don't know, but it's about a scientist that had a family and there was a mutant gene, and when it rained, the virus killed everybody. I'm only on
Nice.
Charming.
I know, probably not a good watch, but I'm like,
Is Anna saying, thank you, no.
like his brother and sister were in a bunker for 6 years, you know, and then they come out and there's people that want them because they're mutants, and so yeah, everyone can watch that.
I have seen that and I highly recommend it.
I do
Like sci-fi. It's really good.
I'm like
Really good.
I was still doing my infusions today and my computer died like at 15 minutes before the one I was watching was over, and I was like, okay, I gotta get back to it. I gotta get back to it. I've never been like this, ever.
Okay, everybody should put in the chat what they recommend for Netflix binge watching.
I do the brain.
Put it in the chat. We'll have a good list.
I think I'm done with this one, so I need some good ones.
But Jackie, if you are in the hotel, I think you are, because I think we are in the same hotel actually.
Yeah, it's the same wall art.
Residence Inn?
Sorry?
Residence Inn?
Yeah, this is.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm on 500.
So you have Netflix in the hotel on the TV, so you don't need your computer. You have it.
Right. I know. I gotta finish that series, but then what am I gonna do? Now I gotta find another one just like it.
Well, Jackie, we've got some good ones in the chat. The Queen's Gambit.
I've heard those.
Oh,
Yeah, that's good.
It's so good. It's so good.
Cobra Kai.
Ooh, ooh.
Very good. I highly recommend.
And should
Bridgerton.
A lot
Yeah.
of people have said about that one. I didn't see.
A lot. 3 people got 3 votes for Bridgerton.
It's beautiful, but it's a little raw.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Mind Hunter. I've never
Oh,
heard of that.
Mindhunter is fantastic.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
It is
that's
very good.
So I'm not really good about Netflix, but this only went to series 3. So does that mean that I have to wait a long time for series 4 to come out?
Probably.
Usually.
A lot of their production
Sometimes up to 3 years.
Oh, yeah, sometimes, yeah. And what Maya was saying, because of the COVID, it's delayed.
Yeah.
Oh, and somebody said The Crown.
Yeah.
Maya said The Crown. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So you got a lot of good choices.
Another 8 hours, 6 hours in a bed tomorrow.
Right.
I'll find one, I'm sure.
I have to put a plug in. There's a show. I've never seen the Sci-Fi Channel in my life. I can't believe I just said that out loud. But there's a show called Resident Alien.
Oh,
Yeah, I started watching that. That's hilarious.
I mean, you're sitting there doing laundry, saying, "I'm never going to watch this," and I just sucked in. This guy is an alien, and he's living in a town, and everybody just sees him as a regular guy because he took the form of a doctor, except for a kid, and the kid can see him, and the kid is really squirrely and scared. But over the course of a couple episodes, he becomes less and less afraid, and he's like punking the alien.
Okay, what was that one now? What's that called?
It's called Resident Alien. The warning here, I thought this was a Netflix show. So I thought, okay, I'll just watch the whole thing in one, like a Domino's pizza. And the pizza.
I'm not going to keep having this pizza slant. This is not.
It was my wife. No, my wife wanted the pizza. So I was just obliging.
Then get your wife a better pizza.
Yes, thank you, Nadia. No Domino's.
Get her a better pizza. You don't really love her. You shaved that mustache. You've been holding in this resentment by giving her bad pizza. Stop this nonsense. Stop it.
That's right, Nadia.
You need to stress test your love and see if she'll stay. And so,
there is a foot of snow outside and it is less than 10 degrees. She will stay if she's still here. Get her a better pizza.
yeah, this poor woman, she puts up. Anyway, but you can't watch it all the way through. It's still like being aired, so you'll be profoundly.
Is it on Netflix though?
No, well, I don't know. I watched it.
No,
on
not yet.
Sci-Fi.
It's on the Sci-Fi Channel, but you can watch it on their website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Resident
Yeah.
Alien. Okay. I'm not really into sci-fi, but okay.
The guy who plays the alien is hysterical. His
really?
facial expressions.
You know, I actually saw him once. I was the only value of so I went to undergraduate in Manhattan. The only value of paying tuition that's that expensive is that you're going to run into celebrities. So I was at a. Do you remember the Bodies exhibit? Is it, you know, this is 20 years ago, where they, I mean, it was an amazing feat to bring bodies throughout the world to exhibit the anatomy and physiology. Anyway, he was there on a date, and and you know, I said under my breath, I'm like, I think it was dodgeball. He played the pirate guy. Where, you know, somebody says, you know, like, there's no such thing as pirates, and he says, "Arr." Anyway. I told him how much I liked this pirate thing, but it was like under the breath, and I was too scared to talk to him.
Now you're watching a show.
Yeah.
Full circle.
And now this is recorded because we are still recording the entire session.
It's still being recorded.
Yeah, that's my wife is the, you know, parental supervision. She'll stop me from saying stuff like that.
Oh, get her a better pizza.
I will.
She's doing so much work.
She's
I know.
horrendous.
No wonder you don't like Detroit pizza. That's not Detroit pizza. Domino's, no.
Well,
Stop slandering us like this. I feel
yeah, I do enjoy it. Well, this has been such a pleasure. It's just meaningful for me. This is thank you for listening and participating. This is a highlight. I really enjoy this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. It's so valuable. So many people want to hear this, and we really appreciate you coming.
Yes.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
I will just quickly share my screen. I just have, let's see, one more thing. Oops, I was looking up movies. There was two other, as I find my slides, there was two other, there was Schitt's Creek. And, yes. And I can't remember, there was one more, I can't remember what it was now. That somebody put in the chat.
I kept thinking about Donald Trump and Schitt's Creek. I couldn't, when I was watching it.
Oh, yes.
After he retired from the presidency.
So just two quick things and then we'll let you go. We'll start. Giving Blue Day is coming up on March 10th, and you'll probably get some information about it from us, me, or Sherry. But I was going to play the video, but I think you all know what Giving Blue Day is. But Dr. Khanna and Dr. Varga are targeting they are looking for any size gift for the Scleroderma Biorepository Fund. And Dr. Khanna is going to give us some information about the fund if you haven't, or the biorepository if you haven't heard about it yet. So look for some information coming up on that, and we'll give you links. And it's on March 10th, and that's when you would do any giving on that day. And we have a, somebody has donated a $20,000, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's a, oh my gosh, Lori Hirschman, can you tell us what it is? I'm drawing a blank.
It's a match for the Giving Blue Day. And we have some maybe we can announce the individuals in the very near future to share that with all of you.
Wonderful. So yes, so we have a $20,000 match. Thank you, Lori. I totally drew a blank on that. And then so our next, oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Let me get here. Our next social event is again, Sherry's going to be leading this in Luck of the Leprechaun Bingo on Tuesday, March 16th. So mark your calendars, but of course you will get
Of course, I'll be all
emails and everything.
decorated again.
What's that?
I said, of course, I'll be all decorated again.
Yes, right. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I forgot to tell, I got so excited because Mackenzie was so close to the bead count that I forgot to say who got 12 right. Well, not 12, 11. Who got 11 questions right from the trivia?
Not me.
10?
That wasn't me.
9? 8? Okay, who got?
I got 8.
8? Okay, Nancy. So Nancy and Mackenzie both get Yen's selfie picture.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so
Is that a
thank
good
you.
gift?
That's a good gift. Yes, your selfie. You're gonna send them a selfie of you. So
One of these days, we're actually going to do that. Yeah. We're
Okay, that's good. Okay.
so,
Well, I'm going to say goodnight. It was
Yes.
nice to be here. I was glad I could be this time. So it was
Thank
nice
you.
to see everybody and thank you, Mary and Maya, for getting everything together, and I enjoyed it. So
Thank you so much.
Thank
This was
you.
my first